Welcome. So this morning we're going to go over installing User Workspace Manager from Ivanti. We're just going to go through the basic installation in this video here. Let me just go ahead and run the setup.exe. Now if you have an account at the community site for Ivanti, you'll be able to download this. Right now the one I'm working with here is released on October 11th, 2017. That's the latest version at this moment. Okay, so User Workspace Manager used to be called AppSense DesktopNow. It's got a lot of great features. Love this program. I've been working with it for a while now, and I was the trainer for AppSense. So I used to do all the training in the United States for this product. So I want to share some of that information with you today. I'll throw in some little tidbits here and there. Now, the installation for this product is very simple. There's a couple complex pieces in there. We'll get to those. But if you're going to do an evaluation, everything's pretty much ready to go in the evaluation version. But you don't want to do that if you're going to be setting this up to do some type of test or a POC or something like that, and then transition that POC into production, because this is going to cause you a lot more trouble if you're using the evaluation. So we're going to do an advanced setup today. I have a SQL Server installed, SQL 2016 on this machine. So we're going to go ahead and just use the SQL installation that I've got on this machine. Now typically, of course, you would have this on a production SQL box if you're doing it in production. Something separate, something clustered, something with good uptime. Now we're just going to do all the products. All right, so let's go ahead and install these. Now in this case we're going to be using a remote SQL instance, so we want to just go ahead and click next. Now here, and this is one of the great things about the installer for the User Workspace Manager, and this has always been the case with AppSense. The installer is really good about finding what's needed and then allowing you to install it pretty much automatically. And in this case, we're going to be installing two packages, the C++ 2015 redistributable packages for 64-bit and for the 32-bit operating systems. Then we're going to also install a role in here for IIS. And again, this is just automatic. We don't have to go into Server Manager and mess with this at all. And then this IIS URL rewrite module. So all of this is going to be handled automatically. Very nice. Now this is not the only section where we're going to be doing this. We're also going to get to a server prerequisites section down here after we've done some of the installation, where it's going to prepare for setting up IIS as well. Okay, so we're all set to install. We're just going to use the default location. Okay, so now we're at the second prerequisite section here. This is where we're going to go in and we're going to add some missing pieces here that we'll need. All right, now we get to this last section. We don't really need to open the help portal here, so we're going to uncheck that and we're going to click finish. So that part you probably could have figured out yourself. So I'm not too concerned. I mean, it was pretty straightforward. You just run setup.exe and follow all the prompts, right? So let's get to the part that really is a little bit more challenging, and that is the SCP, or the Server Configuration Portal. This is replacement for the old server configuration utility that used to be in the older versions of AppSense. Okay, once you log in, you're going to notice that some of these are going to show up red. Unconfigured server instance under personalization, and another one under management here. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to create the databases. So the first database that we're going to create is the management database. Now, in order for this to work, you're going to need an account that has high levels of privileges on the SQL server. Now, in this case, my account has sysadmin, but you don't need full sysadmin, although it's pretty close. You can use an account with DB creator and security admin. But sysadmin will do the trick here in this case. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to create our new database. Now we can give it a friendly name. I'm just going to call it management. You may want to call it something different if you feel like you're going to have multiple instances in here and you want to distinguish them. Now the server name in this case is my server 01. Now the configuration account in this case is the account that's going to have the full sysadmin or the DB creator and security admin. It's the one that's going to create the database essentially on the database server. And if you hit the check button here, you'll make sure that you got the password right. All right, now the database name, since in this case we don't have a database name, we don't have a name for the database because we haven't created it, we're going to type that in. Now, if you have a lot of databases on this database server, you're probably going to want to do something more distinctive like Ivanti Management DB or something like that. That way you can tell it apart from other management databases. Now, the service account needs to be created ahead of time. This is a Windows account. It needs no specific rights in Windows. It's just a regular user account. The only caveat is I would say you want to make sure that this is a real service account. It doesn't have an expiration on the password if you can get away with it. Now, the other thing that you're going to want to do is make sure that it's added here in the database under logins. You're going to want to make sure that this is actually an account here listed. In this case, it's just a regular account with a server role of public. Okay? And that's the SQL Management Studio there. Okay, let's go ahead and put it in. All right, now it's going to go ahead and create the database. Okay, so now the database has been created for the management server. We're going to need to set up an instance under management servers here. This is going to be our IIS instance. You see here we can create an instance. Now, take a look here. You'll notice something kind of interesting. Number one, the management database is going to be on port 7751. This is a little bit of a departure from the earlier versions. By default, everything was on port 80 in the older versions. Now management is on port 7751. Now you can put a host header in and use DNS to do a redirect to 80 if you want, or you can just change the port. Now, there is a way to do that too. The other thing that you can consider here is the authentication method. This is really just talking about the machine level authentication. So if it's a machine that's on the domain, Windows is going to do authentication at the machine level with the machine account. And if you run into problems with that, which some people have in the past, you can change this to anonymous. There's no real sensitive data that's passing along here. It does avoid some of the problems that you may run into with load balancers, like hardware load balancers, NetScalers, F5. They're Linux-based, right? So the Windows machine-level authentication may get stripped out unless it has some way of, which some of them do, have a way of passing that through. So anyway, anonymous, generally better for most people. if you can't do it that way, you have to set up SPNs in Active Directory, and you can do it. You can get around it. So we're going to go ahead and create this. Okay, and that's it. That's it for Management Center. We've created the database. Now we've also created the instance. Now we need to go on to personalization. So we're going to go ahead and create the personalization database. Again, we got our friendly name. SQL Server. Now it may load from the broadcast. I'm just going to type it in. Again, the configuration account. This is an account that has sysadmin or DB Creator Security Admin. And then we check to make sure that it's good. Yep, type the password right. Now the database, you'll notice, hey, look, there's our database from before, the Ivanti Management DB. Now we're going to be creating a separate database. In this case, it's for personalization, so we're going to call it Ivanti. Okay, the database doesn't exist, so it will be created. This is going to be the same service account as before. And then we go ahead and hit create. All right, we'll click finish. All right, now we're going to create our instance for personalization. We click on default down here, and we're going to create our instance, but again, we're going to change our authentication to anonymous. Now you notice here the port for personalization, the default is 7771. All right, and we finished that up. And now we have created the databases, and we have created the instances for both the management server database and also the personalization server database. All right, that's pretty much it for getting set up with User Workspace Manager.